Council to discuss a planning matter. Due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19, the council chambers at Town Hall will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. All persons interested in observing this are invited to do so through the town's live broadcast of this meeting online at youtube.com/c/Orangeville Council. Members of the public who have an interest in the matter listed on the agenda may have until 10 a.m. on the day of a scheduled council meeting. Email councilagenda@orangeville.ca indicating your request to speak to a matter listed on the agenda. A phone number and conference ID code will be provided to you so that you may join the virtual meeting and provide your comments to council. Members of the public wishing to raise a question or voice comments may beginning at 7 p.m. on the evening of the council or public meeting. Call 1-289-801-5774 and enter conference ID number 966-727-795 #. Callers will be invited to provide their questions or comments following the conclusion of the meeting presentations. Please remember that the council meeting is streamed live and your name and comments are part of the public record and will be part of the live broadcast and included in the minutes of the meeting. Councillors, may I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'd like to move down to the singing of our national anthem. Mr. Bernard.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, David Nair, Artistic Director of Theatre Orangeville, for that rendition of Old Canada. I'd like to give our land acknowledgement now. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and the Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and will be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Actually, I've already said this, haven't I? Your name as part of the public record will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, I'd like to turn the meeting over to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's procedure will be as follows. Anyone who would like to speak to this matter can call 1-289-801-5774 and enter conference ID number 966-727-795. Callers will be invited to provide their questions or comments following the conclusion of this meeting presentation. Anyone who wants to be notified of further consideration of this topic can submit their name, phone number, mailing address, and email address to planning@orangeville.ca or call 519-941-0440, extension 2254, and reference the file number OPZ 202-03. Note that any information collected is a matter of public record. So first we'll start off tonight with a presentation by town planning staff. Mr. Brandon Moore, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Good evening, everyone. So I'm just going to give a brief introductory presentation with respect to tonight's applications under consideration. The applicant will also be presenting a more detailed explanation of their application, their development proposal, etc. Just to continue from some of the introductory remarks of the Deputy Mayor, this is a public meeting to really present information about the applications and obtain feedback from the community, receive any comments and answer any questions regarding the information that's been submitted to date. Decisions not made at tonight's public meeting. That is to be, the information is basically be taken into consideration as part of our review of the applications and providing a recommendation for a council decision on the matter in the future. So essentially, this is a quick summary of the application particulars. The subject property is located at 780 Broadway. The applications were submitted late last year and deemed complete just at year's end. The proposed development is essentially 54 back-to-back townhouse units. I'll explain a little bit further about that in a minute. As well, there's a standalone commercial building situated on the property. And there's a series of parking spaces proposed, a combination of surface level spaces and underground spaces beneath the townhouse units. So here's the location of the subject property. As you can see, it's on the south side of Broadway. It's situated just to the west of Riddell Road and then to the east of County Road 23, or otherwise known as B-Line. This is an air photo of the subject lands. As you can see, there's predominantly low-density residential connected with Paula Court to the south, as well as some townhouse developments or townhouse uses on Benjamin Crescent, just to the southeast of the subject lands. To the east is a stormwater management facility, and then beyond that, the lands to the north and to the west are vacant. So here's an excerpt of the applicant's site plan. As you can see, there's the townhouse units situated more to the west of the property. There's the standalone commercial building situated on the east side, and then the parking for that commercial unit or the commercial building is situated in behind that building, sort of between the Paula Court residences to the south and to the building facing Broadway. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. As I mentioned earlier, the applicant is present and will be speaking in a little more detail about this proposed development, and they'll be able to provide a little more information about some of the particulars of the proposed site layout. So the official plan designates the subject property as service commercial. So service commercial areas are those situated along the town's major transportation routes. They're intended to provide a range of commercial uses that consists of more specialized products or services that would rely on a greater degree of exposure to the traveling public, and doing so cater to perhaps a broader market area. Residential uses are not permitted in this designation, so the applicant has submitted a proposal to amend the official plan designation at this location. They're seeking to redesignate the property to neighborhood commercial. Now, this designation, on the other hand, applies to more localized areas, generally situated in response to nearby residential areas. And as a result, these areas are intended to serve the needs, more the day-to-day needs of those surrounding residential areas. So some of the uses permitted include limited retail, personal service uses, convenience retail, things of that nature. Residential uses are permitted in the service commercial designation, albeit they're permitted only on upper levels above permitted commercial uses. So the applicant's amendment is proposing to add a site-specific policy to address that residential use permission on upper levels to accommodate the proposed development. The site-specific policy is to permit 54 dwelling units consistent with what is being proposed. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the subject property is zoned service commercial, again permitting a similar range of uses to what I mentioned with respect to the official plan policy framework for these lands. There is a site-specific special provision applied to these lands. It permits an upper floor dwelling unit on the property. The language of this provision is very specific, and when looking back at the history of this special provision, it was introduced to the site in the late 90s as part of a broader town-wide commercial zoning bylaw review and update exercise that sort of changed the commercial framework for the town. And as part of that amendment, there apparently was an existing residence on the property, and as part of the rezoning through that exercise, in order to avoid it from being deemed legal non-conforming, they added this special provision in here to basically acknowledge and legalize that existing use of that time. So the proposed amendment is similar to what I had described with respect to the official plan amendment. It's to rezone the property to neighborhood commercial, the C2 zone category, again to permit a range of commercial uses similar to what is considered by the neighborhood commercial designation in the official plan. Similarly, again, they are proposing a site-specific special provision to accommodate some of the aspects of the development proposal, particularly with respect to building height and, again, a limitation on the number of units contemplated for this site. So in terms of the comments received thus far, when the applications were deemed complete late last year, we did issue a notice for having received these applications. To date, we haven't got a whole lot of detailed comments. We've received more or less some inquiries about what is happening at this site, what the development proposal is, etc. I do note there are some submission correspondence pieces on tonight's agenda recently received. And again, the purpose of this meeting is to obtain further feedback to that effect from interested members of the community. In terms of the circulation to agencies and departments, we've received fairly typical conditions from the major utilities and other public agencies. Township of Amaranth, they were circulated on this given the proximity of these lands to surrounding neighboring municipalities. They've indicated no concerns with this application at this time. We have received some detailed comments from some of our key agencies. I won't get into this in too much detail because there is more information in the staff report, the information report included on tonight's agenda. But our infrastructure services, our environment division has reviewed this with respect to source water protection implications, and they provided some comments with respect to just potential impacts to groundwater and I guess a conformity with the source protection policy regime. Our Transportation and Development Division has reviewed this with respect to servicing and traffic and stormwater management. Now, with respect to traffic, we are relying heavily on the input from Dufferin County with respect to traffic. This roadway, this segment of Broadway is under jurisdiction of the county. So their review and comment on this particular development is important with respect to the access proposed and any traffic impacts that might be arising from this development. In terms of servicing, our staff have noted the existing infrastructure conditions related to the site. They've been provided with respect to the completion of the adjacent Paula Court subdivision development to the south. The infrastructure in place has been put in with respect to the eventual commercial use of the property, consistent with the commercial land use framework that I discussed previously. So one of the primary objectives we want to ensure is that this servicing can accommodate the development proposal in terms of its capacity. So in terms of our division, we're still reviewing this, obviously, and part of tonight's meeting is to obtain further feedback, which we will certainly take into consideration as part of our overall review and reporting on these applications for an eventual decision. Some of the key things we're looking at for this site is, of course, compatibility with surrounding land uses in terms of both an impact standpoint, but also a visual impact and an architectural design component as well. As I mentioned earlier, I discussed the sort of the change in land use framework, the change in commercial intent. That's something that we're also giving key consideration to in terms of understanding that change and its appropriateness for this site. We also want to make sure that the development of this property is not going to preclude or hinder future development opportunity on the neighboring property. That's a particularly important consideration with respect to traffic and the access point on Broadway, as well as the servicing arrangements for this site and possibly accommodating future development on the adjacent property. So again, next steps in this process to tonight's meeting is really an information sharing exercise to obtain feedback, answer questions, and present more information about the applications we've received. We review this input received at tonight's meeting as part of our overall evaluation of the applications and eventually preparing a recommendation for a council decision on this matter. And following that, there will be further planning approvals needed, particularly a site plan application, which in fact for this particular development has been submitted in conjunction with these official plan and zoning bylaw amendments and is being reviewed concurrently. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll certainly be available to answer any questions that any councillors or members of the public may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ward. We'll now have a presentation by Hesman Mohammed. He's with Humphreys Planning Group Incorporated on behalf of the applicant, Millwick Acquisitions Corporation. Mr. Mohammed, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me, see me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Brandon, for your time and your presentation. It's greatly appreciated. If I can just screen share here, just give me a quick moment. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, wonderful. Well, to start, good evening, Your Worship, members of council and members of the public. My name is Hisham Mohammed with Humphreys Planning Group, and I represent the owners of the lands municipally known as 780 Broadway. The subject land is located at the western boundary of the town of Orangeville, within the inner edge of the existing urban settlement area between Riddell Road and Beeline. The site is irregular in shape and has a variable topography and represents a significant decline in elevation from the south to the north along Broadway. The surrounding land uses consist of Broadway or County Road 109 and an employment area under the jurisdiction of the Township of Amaranth to the north, a vacant lot to the west, a low-rise residential neighborhood with single-detached, semi-detached, and street townhouse dwelling units to the south, and a stormwater management facility to the east. The subject site has an area of 1.15 hectares or 2.84 acres with a lot frontage of 163.68 meters along Broadway, and there's currently an existing temporary sales office on site. Applications for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and site plan approval have been submitted to the town of Orangeville to facilitate the approval of a mixed-use development consisting of 54 back-to-back townhouse dwelling units, as well as a standalone multi-unit commercial building, approximately 920 square meters in GFA, and a development density of 46.95 units per hectare. There are 154 total parking spaces, which complies with the zoning bylaw requirement. The residential component consists of 108 total spaces, 48 surface parking, and 60 underground parking spaces. Additionally, the retail component contains 46 surface parking spaces. Vehicular access to the site is achieved via an entrance from Broadway, located at the center of the site, which will be shared to serve both the proposed residential and commercial uses of the development. An internal system of walkways establishes a comprehensive pedestrian circulation route, which serves to connect the various townhouse blocks, commercial space, amenity areas, as well as surface parking and the underground garage. The underground garage is accessed via a ramp located at the western property limits, extending from the internal private laneway. A loading area, snow storage area, and bicycle rack have also been incorporated to service the development, and a shared waste collection area is proposed interior to the site and has been designed with a fence enclosure to screen the garbage bins. A planning justification report has been submitted as part of this application and illustrates the proposal being consistent with the regulations and policies of the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, and the Dufferin County official plan. The Town of Orangeville official plan identifies the subject land as being designated as service commercial. The purpose of the official plan amendment is to redesignate the lands from service commercial to neighborhood commercial in order to permit residential uses on the subject land. The OPA seeks to recognize a broader potential for the subject land and expand upon the permitted uses, which already includes commercial uses. The proposal provides for an appropriate mix of uses and is compatible with the surrounding context. Additionally, it should be noted that residential uses are in fact permitted in the zoning bylaw. The subject lands are currently zoned C3 service commercial and subject to special provision 24-126 per the Town of Orangeville zoning bylaw 2290. Special provision 24-126, as Brandon had mentioned earlier, provides for additional permissions on the subject land, including dwelling units on upper floors of buildings containing permitted uses. The proposed development will require a zoning bylaw amendment in order to facilitate the development of standalone residential uses. Currently, residential dwelling units are only permitted in upper floors. The rezoning will replace the current C3 service commercial zone with the C2 neighborhood commercial zone in order to implement the proposal and to allow for the establishment of residential uses together with commercial uses on the subject land. Additionally, a number of site-specific exceptions are being requested in order to modify some of the neighborhood commercial build form standards, as you can see on your screen here. The residential component of the development has been located on the western portion of the site and has been arranged into 4 distinct townhouse blocks of various sizes and each containing a specific number of dwelling units. As I had mentioned before, the residential development includes 108 parking spaces, or 2 per unit. 48 spaces are located on the surface, whereas the underground structure comprises of 60 private garages corresponding to each unit and accessed via a ramp extending from the internal private laneway. The residential townhouse buildings are 3 stories in height, or 11 meters. The commercial component of the proposal is located on the east side of the development and is 920 square meters in GFA. The current C3 service commercial zone allows for commercial and retail uses, along with residential uses. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to also include additional permitted uses for the retail building, as you can see on your screen. The commercial component of the development has been designed as a multiple-use building containing 12 units. The retail building provides for 46 surface parking spaces located to the rear of the building and away from the Broadway street frontage where they're not visible. The commercial building has a height of 10 meters, or 1 story, as you can see here on the elevations on your screen, which complies to the zoning bylaw's height standards in the neighborhood commercial zone. As it relates to the site servicing, the water supply for the development will be provided by the existing water main on Broadway. The sanitary servicing will be connected via a sewer connection to the existing sanitary manhole located on the southeast corner of the site. The stormwater management for the site will be facilitated via controlled discharge to the existing storm manhole at the east side of the property. And the proposed grading will improve the existing drainage conditions on the site in order to meet the town and county's requirements. Lastly, a number of technical reports have been completed in support of the official plan, zoning, and site plan applications that have been submitted to the town. At this time, we are working closely with town staff in order to address any comments they may have, as the application is still under review. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to responding to any questions that members of council or members of the public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. I would like to also, before we take questions, acknowledge correspondence from Sheena and Stephen Snook, dated February 25th, 2001, which outlines their reasons for opposition to the proposed development. I would also like to acknowledge the correspondence from Darlene Heron and David Webb, dated February 24th, 2001, which also outlines their reasons for opposition to the proposed development. Councillor Andrews, do you have a question?
I do, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, and thank you. It's actually a comment and a question, and thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for your presentation. I will make a comment regarding at least the visuals. I'm intrigued by what I see at this point, And as has been put on record by myself and other members of council, we look forward to opportunities for further growth in our community, but also affordable housing at some point, as we know what the real estate market is like in our communities these days. This question is pertaining to not just the density, but the location. And I know that Mr. Ward had made reference to the fact that the traffic is under the jurisdiction of the county, if I'm correct in saying so. And as part of the traffic study, to what extent have we looked at possible modifications, or would this again fall into the shoulders of the county regarding the potential concerns? As many of us who are aware of that intersection, it can be very busy in a westerly direction, but also easterly direction coming off of County Road 3, also the V-line area heading east. Will there potentially be the responsibility of the developer or the county to have a possible middle turning lane or a exit lane into that development? I know it's premature, but as we're looking at this tonight as part of the public discussion, we just felt it was important to at least pose that question.
Sorry, through you, the chair, to Councillor Andrews. I'm not sure if that question is directed to myself or to town staff.
Would be either. I'm not sure if Mr. Ward would be able to answer that, or Mr. Mohammed, maybe a collective response.
Through you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, perhaps I can start, and Mr. Mohammed could perhaps add any details with respect to the traffic study. As you had noted, Councillor Andrews, the traffic study was submitted with this application and provided the appropriate analysis needed to evaluate the proposed development relative to existing and future traffic conditions anticipated for this location. I noted in my presentation that this section of roadway is under jurisdiction of the county, so they are the review entity for this with respect to their interest in this roadway segment. So what we are looking to them as to their review and comment to see whether or not do they concur with the recommendations of the study, and can the site access be accommodated under existing conditions, or are improvements perhaps needed to this location? Or one of the other elements we're looking at is, might there be, if this were to proceed, might there be perhaps some challenges with an additional access at the 810 Broadway location? So we want to make sure that what goes forward here can be done in harmony with the adjacent lands and not preclude one or the other necessarily. And we're looking to the county staff to provide that review and comment to assist us with our review of this application.
Okay, Mr. Ward, thank you very much for that clarification. I appreciate that. Deputy Mayor, I have one quick question also for the Mr. Mohammed, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. According to what I see in the renderings, Mr. Mohammed, it looks like they're almost what I would define as garden condominiums. And so you did reference that they are 3 stories. So will they be kind of a single vertical occupancy, or will there be a division between the units themselves?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Andrews, there would typically with these block townhouses, there would be a division between the stories, and floor plans have been provided to the town of Orangeville, so it is still under review with town staff. But for the purposes of your inquiry, they would essentially be divided, yes. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Sherwood, you have a question.
Yes, through you, Chair McIntosh, to Mr. Mohammed. On page 5 of your presentation, you see that there is, I just gotta get it up on my screen here. On page 5, there's a reference to a children's play area that's between the 2 residential townhouse buildings. And sorry, someone needs to mute. Someone needs to mute.
Hello? Oh, Darlene, mute that. Hi, how are you?
So I'm going to continue my question to Mr. Mohammed, if I could, please. On page 5 of your presentation, in between the 2 townhouse units, there's a reference to a children's playground, and I would really like to know if the intentions are to just have it as land where the children play, or is the intention to put some kind of swing set, slide set, or tot plot on there, because it is a significant distance for any children that are going to be in that neighborhood to go to a park.
Through you, the chair, to Councillor Sherwood, we had a chance to look at the play area, and there's been several discussions internally. But at this time, we're still open to discussion with the town staff after they've had the chance to provide their commentary on the children's play area. At this time, there's no solidified plan here as it relates to whether or not there's going to be a playground there. We're essentially waiting to hear back from town staff regarding how they wish to how they wish to comment on this.
So I guess my follow-up is that is my hint that I would like to see something there for the children. I would think that there would be significant young families in that area, and my concern is there isn't a close playground for the children to go to. So even a little tot plot doesn't have to be a full-fledged playground, but something like that I would like you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. We have Mayor Brown, wishes to ask a question.
Right. I'm just reviewing this proposal and comparing it to some other recent approvals here. I gotta tell you, when I look at this and look at the renderings, it looks like a continuation of urban sprawl in Etobicoke or Brampton to me, and it doesn't look like Orangeville. It looks like just about as much as possible has been shoehorned onto this site. If we compare it to 670 and 690 Broadway, which was approved earlier this year, that site was reduced, I think, back to 33 units, if I'm not mistaken, and it's on approximately the same size of property, like 2.8 acres. I'm just wondering, Mr. Mohammed, is it your intention there for all of this to be shoehorned onto that site? It just seems incredibly tight, and the balance virtually of the land is parking lot. It just it looks like I said, it looks like urban sprawl to me. Is there a way to reduce this? Or is that your intention?
Through the chair to Mayor Brown, thank you for your inquiry. Just so that you're aware, an urban design brief was submitted as part of the application process, and the proposed mixed-use development is consistent with the Town of Orangeville official plan policies, as well as the urban design policies outlined in the Commercial Urban Design Study and Guidelines. The proposal does meet the objectives and intent of the urban design vision for new residential and commercial development as articulated by the town. So at this time, what we're looking for are technical comments from town staff as it relates to the urban design brief, and if they have any comments as it relates to kind of the built form of the proposal, we'd certainly be open for discussion.
Good. A follow-up, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mohammed, again, I'm going to reference a more recent approval in the last few months, again, 670, 690 Broadway. Some of the residents of Paula Court were concerned with proximity to their lots. I know that the town did work through a similar sort of situation with 670 and 690 Broadway, where there was some buffering, some distance between the lots of the neighboring properties, and just, it would be my desire if we could try and create some better buffering between the Paula Court lots. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Councillor Post, you have a question.
Thank you very much, Chair. And similar to what Mayor Brown has said, I have a question for Mr. Mohammed as well. Some of the concerns that we've received about this development from some of the neighboring property owners is that they feel a little blindsided and misled by the fact that this was originally zoned as being service commercial, so they were expecting that it was going to be commercial establishments going in there and kind of neighborhood retail feel. And now the site plan that's been proposed is really favoring residential with very little focus on the neighborhood retail piece. So if it was left with the same zoning that it's under now, how many residential pieces would you be looking to put in, and how much would that change your site plan at this point? Because we've kind of gone from it being a neighborhood commercial area to it being a very residential focused development. So under the current framework, you said that there is an allowance to have upper level residential put in. What would the difference be then? Would there be a bigger focus? Would the neighborhood retail look a little different? What would be your plan in that case?
Through the chair to Councillor Post, thank you for your inquiry. Just so that you're aware, as part of the planning justification report, we've had a chance to kind of review these concerns. Actually, so currently the zoning bylaw permits building heights of up to 23 meters as part of the service commercial zone, and what we're proposing here is for the residential component, only an 11-meter building height, whereas the commercial component is 10 meters in height. So I know that I had a chance to review some of the public correspondence here, and we appreciate the feedback from the public, of course. But if I can, I'd like to address some of their concerns. They mentioned that the main thing here was lack of privacy. Now, as part of the plan, as I was saying, as part of the planning justification report, Section 6.3 of the report states that the proposed development is consistent with the town of Orangeville's urban design study, and the development provides a build form that's generally consistent with and complements the surrounding neighborhood context. In addition to this, as I had mentioned to Mayor Brown, that an urban design brief was also prepared, and both of these documents are currently under staff review. It should also be noted that there's a significant grade change from the southern lot line to the northern lot line, and the existing dwelling units along Paula Court are actually at a significantly higher grade and would be essentially looking down at the proposed development. Therefore, privacy would not be necessarily impeded. And there's also an 8-meter setback from the townhouse block to the southern property lot line fronting Paula Court as well. Now, the letters received from lots 29 and 33, if I can pull up the PowerPoint presentation for a quick second here, I can show you where they would be fronting. Let me see here. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
So I believe it was 29 Paula Court would be this section here, if you could see my mouse, whereas 33 would be this lot over here. Both would be fronting the amenity area and parking lot. So there would be no privacy concerns from that perspective. And to Councillor Post, to respond to your inquiry about if the zoning designation did not change and we keep it at service commercial, given that we're proposing 54 townhouse dwelling units, it would significantly increase the building height of the residential component. So it would certainly be much higher than 11 meters, since currently 23 meters is allowed per the zoning bylaw.
Thank you very much for that response. That's kind of what my thought was going to be, is that you would build up rather than out. So I just wanted clarification on that, and I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Post. Do we have any questions from the public? We do have someone on the line. They just need to unmute.
Star 6.
Pardon?
Star 6 to unmute.
Star 6 to unmute if you're on the line. Star 6. If there's a caller on the line, please push star 6 to unmute and you can have your comments. Shall we move on?
You send them a message, Dan?
You're on.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question from the council, so I can move on and come back. Councilor Peters, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Ward, just a couple of thoughts here. You know, it's at a very busy location. It's been brought up before with a lot of traffic. It currently would have no transit service, really not a lot of pedestrian or bike access. What's the rationale for moving away from service commercial in this case? It doesn't seem a great spot for, you know, medium density housing, and certainly in a community that has a lot of commuting, you know, we want more jobs to be local, and the opportunity for commercial development, I think, would be good, obviously in town. And, you know, this also is far outside the built up area as it relates to our in-town official plan. And so just, you know, I'm not sure how the proposal was made to change the zoning. I know that's, I guess, what the development world is seeking at the moment in terms of, you know, projects, but could you give a bit more history on that, perhaps?
Certainly, through you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, to Councillor Peters. So the applicant has submitted a bit of a commercial assessment of the site in support of their proposed land use change. And some of the comments provided in that study were they did and analyzed sort of the history of this site. From what I understand, it's been underutilized for quite some time, and the consultant perhaps saw some merit in maybe rethinking the permissions here and see that a more of a localized or a residential commercial format might be a little more successful or appropriate for this location. I mentioned earlier that the lands are, you know, under the service commercial hierarchy intended to cater to a broader market area, and the change to neighborhood commercial is now shifting to sort of being geared to more of a local focus. There is some residential around here, so the neighborhood commercial function could lend some support to this residential community in terms of providing some localized services and smaller retail functions to support that. So perhaps that's some of the rationale behind the change, and we're continuing to evaluate that as we move forward with this review.
Hello, Your Worship.
Yeah, if you could just stand by, please. Are you finished, Mr. Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hello?
I am Deputy Mayor McIntosh. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councilor Peters. Anything to add?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a caller on the line. Go ahead, sir. Give your name, please.
What's the rationale for moving away from service commercial in this case? It doesn't seem very spot for
The caller on the
density
line.
housing and certain
Hello.
communities that
Caller on the
have,
line.
you know,
Turn down.
more jobs to be local,
Have on the back.
and opportunity for commercial development, I think, would be good, obviously in town. And this also as far as the area, I believe, for in-town official plan. And so, just, you know,
Caller,
I'm not
have a
sure
question? Go ahead.
how
State your name.
I guess what the we're speaking at the moment in terms of, you know, projects, but can you give us any idea on that?
Certainly, through you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, to Councillor Peters. The applicant has submitted
I don't even know if I'm going to get through on this, Darlene.
Hello, caller on the line.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, can you please turn down your TV?
Oh, turn down the TV? Okay, sorry. Hi, is that better?
Yes, and we can hear you, and I'll turn you back over to the chair, Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Take your name and go ahead with your question.
Hello, Deputy Mayor McIntosh. By the way, I'm glad I voted for you. I'm a resident. I live at 29 Paula Court, and this proposal is, you know, like it's been said, really kind of took us for a loop. I mean, we're a close-knit neighborhood here, and I mean, everybody paid 20,000 to 30,000 extra for lot premiums. You know, being misled during the sales of our house, saying that it was going to be commercial buildings there, not, you know, 58 units with, I'm sure it's going to be at least 300 people when you add up the amount of people that live in the units nowadays anyways. So one of my questions in regards to this is, like, how did this come about so quickly? And are there going to be new guidelines put forth because, you know, we're under the development of LM Developments, and we bought this house. We moved from Benjamin Court, you know, with the understanding that there was going to be park access and walkways connecting to Benjamin Court so our children could go to the water parks. It's been an ongoing disappointment with this developer, where the town of Orangeville doesn't seem to have any bylaws in effect on the amount of time that it takes for a developer to finish their product and or project, I should say. And I'm just wondering what the timelines are going to be if this development does go through. How long we're going to have to live in a construction state again, and is there going to be some sort of compensation towards the extra money that we paid for the walkout premiums with supposedly supposed to have commercial units behind us?
Okay, first of all, caller, could I just get your name, please?
Sorry?
Your name?
My name is David Webb, 29 Paula Court.
David Webb. Thank you.
Yes.
First of all, be advised that we're a long way from approving this development, so just hold on. And Brandon Ward, do you have some answers to those questions?
Certainly, through you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, as you had noted, this is still in a very early stage in the review process. There's no decision being made at this time, and the whole purpose of this is really to take the input received into consideration. With respect to some of the comments made about the existing development conditions for Paula Court, that's unrelated to this application at hand. The landowner has come forward with submissions to change the land use permissions for the property, and part of the process in considering a land use change of this nature is to put out public notice and go through a consultation exercise to make the community aware of the proposal and to obtain their feedback. As the caller noted, they were certainly made aware of the commercial permissions that exist for the lands. This is an application to change those permissions and therefore must go through the consultation process accordingly.
Thank you. Caller, any further comments or questions?
Well, I'm just, like I said, we're just frustrated homeowners here, and you know, I moved from Brampton almost 15 years ago. I mean, we pay a lot of money in taxes in Orangeville, and I moved from one walkout to another with the understanding that there was nothing going to be behind us. And you know, I understand that one development doesn't affect the other, but when it comes to the town of Orangeville, maybe they should have some sort of stipulations and guidelines intact so that further developments and developers can have projects done in a timely fashion.
Yes, Mr. Webb, I certainly feel your frustration, and again, we're a long way from approving this particular project, so stand by to be a lot more information coming out and a lot more chance for you to have your say.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from the public? Seeing none, any other questions from council? Seeing none, the recommendation is that report INS 2021-02-012, 780 Broadway, public meeting information report OPZ 2020-3 be received. Do I have a mover? Would anyone like to make that motion? Councilor Post? Mayor Brown? All in favor? Passed. I'll now turn it back over to Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Okay, that's really it for tonight's meeting. We do have a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Town of Orangeville at this particular public meeting. They have a motion to confirm that. Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor?
Yes.
And we also need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight. All the best.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.